بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام على آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المظلومين الميامين المنتجبين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من يوم عداوتهم إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه وهو أصدق القائلين: يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح إلى ربك كدحا فملاقيه. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Tonight is our 10th night in our series on finding God. And last night we began discussing the search for God as a species. And we said some of the most unprecedented trials and tribulations that await humans will surface on a global scale towards the end of times. And they seem poised for the last generation of humans and towards the end of our journey as a species on the earth as we know it. We suggested that even the global catastrophes that await us are not mindless chastisement, but meant to be a process in which human souls are purified, albeit on a much larger scale. A key prophecy in our texts in this whole world collapse before the coming of humanity's savior, Imam al-Mahdi ajalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, is the emergence of a great trial through a figure that is referred to in our texts as Ad-Dajjal. Dajjal means one who deceives, and it is not his real name. He is also identified in Christian literature as the Antichrist. Once again, the idea of deception is obvious in the word anti or anti-Christ. He is a false Messiah who emerges just before the real Messiah or Savior comes forth. Why is he called Dajjal? Because he will have an extraordinary ability to perform miracles that he will harness through a control of devils, of shayateen. And he will use that ability to show miracles and convince people that he is in fact God in the flesh. And in that process he will mislead a multitude. For example, we are told in hadith, he will have the ability to convince people that he can resurrect the dead. And a man will come to him and say, if you can bring my father or my mother back to life, I will believe you are God. And so he will do that. And a devil will emerge from a place where the grave of that person's father or mother is, but the devil will come out in the shape and form of the person who was deceased. And the words in hadith say that that person, that devil who comes forth, will look so similar to the person who has died that not only will they look similar, they will behave in a similar manner. When they smile, when they laugh, when they talk, when they gesture, it will be impossible to tell that this is a devil and not the real person. The hadith goes on to say that the man will take this devil back home and spend time with him, overjoyed that his loved one has come back to life, when in fact it will not be his loved one. In other incidents or miracles that he performs, we are told he will be able to point to the heavens and it will rain. He will be able to turn barren land into lush greenery again. Now this is significant because the Dajjal emerges at a time of great drought and famine. In the book Uqd ad-Durar, which is a collection of ahadith on the 12th Imam alayhi salam, besides many other books of hadith that we have, there is a hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, He says, before the coming of Dajjal, his coming will be preceded by 3 very difficult years. In the first year, Allah will command the heavens and 1/3 of the annual rainfall will not fall. In the second year, 2/3 of the annual rainfall will not fall. And in the third year, Allah will command the heavens to withhold its water, and there will be absolutely not a drop of rain on the earth. When that happens, the earth will dry up and nothing will grow on it. All the vegetation on the earth will die. All the animals that we depend on and feed on will perish. There will be no water and there will be no food. He was asked, if that will be the case, then those who survive, what will they live on? Now, I'm not going to reveal the answer now. Let me hold this answer for a sec. I want to say a little bit more about Dajjal. Dajjal will now emerge after these 3 years of extreme drought and famine when people are dying. He will say to the world, acknowledge me as your God, bow before me, and I will provide you food and water. In some of the Christian texts that I have read, the same text that say he is the Antichrist, they say that the Antichrist will control the global economy, which is the same as saying he will control food and water. Most humans will give in because they have never experienced fasting all day without food and water, even for 8 or 10 hours a day, let alone such intense starvation and thirst. Now imagine this. Your cupboards and pantries at home are empty. Your refrigerator and your stove has been unplugged because there is nothing to cook and nothing to store. If anyone knows you have food in your home, they will invade your home and put a knife to your throat to grab that one piece of bread that you have. There is no birds, there is no squirrels, there is no grass, there is nothing. The rivers and the ponds are all dry. All you now have to do is bow before Dajjal and say, yes, you are my Lord and you are my God, and you will get this relief. And that is where those who shall be saved will be separated from those who shall be doomed. Because those who shall be doomed, their logic will be, well, it's just a matter of words. Let's just say a few words. Let's just bow and prostrate once. At least we get relief from this. It may sound easy that I will be able to withstand this. But now imagine, for example, your 2-year-old is dying in your arms, and your family is pleading with you to do something to save that child from dying. At that point, what will you choose? The Prophet ﷺ said, humanity has never been tested ever since Adam was created the way it will be tested when Dajjal emerges. He used to recite and pray to Allah, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min fitnati Dajjal. Allah, I seek refuge with you from the trial of Dajjal. In some ahadith, we are told every prophet from Adam warned his people about the coming of this false Messiah at the end of humanity's journey. This is to show you the severity of this trial. In one hadith from Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, no one will be saved from the fitna of Dajjal. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He says, none will be saved from the fitna of Dajjal except one who is accustomed to regularly reciting Dua al-Ghariq. So someone asked him, Yabna Rasulillah, what is Dua al-Ghariq? He said, it is that you frequently recite, Ya Allahu, Ya Rahmanu, Ya Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, Thabbit Qalbi ala Dinik. O Allah, O Beneficent, O All-Merciful, O you who overturns hearts, keep my heart firm on this religion. In another hadith, we are told that people will go to the cemetery and cry over the graves of their parents and say, how lucky you are that you have died and you have not lived to see these times. Now, you might say that in this day of age, in this day and age of science, where most people don't even believe in God, let alone religion, I can't believe that they'll accept one man as God and even worship him. And in fact, in hadith, we are told this Dajjal will be one-eyed. And one of his eyes will hang like a dried grape. And in that hadith, it says, Allah will put this to make it clear to people that he cannot be God. Because even if you had some illusion of God being a physical entity, then the question would be, how come he cannot fix that one eye he has? And what is interesting is I have seen a similar illusion in the same Christian text as well. In this Christian text, it is believed that when the Antichrist comes forth, there will be an assassination attempt that will fail. He will not be killed in that attempt, but he will lose one eye. Now the question is, how can a person who believes in science, a person who is an agnostic, in the godless society we live today, where most people do not subscribe to religion or acknowledge God, how are they going to believe a one-eyed man is God? But then again, does anything about humans surprise you, really? Have we not left God and detached from reality? And most humans are like sheep anyway. They'll just go with the majority. If a convicted felon can hold an office that the ignorant flaunt as the most powerful man on earth, if humans can set up a body and call it the United Nations, and then silently watch a genocide unfold before their eyes and remain indifferent and with apathy, why would it surprise you if someone like Dajjal emerges and brings the dead back to life and turns barren land into lush green fields and then gets everyone to worship him? It is not such a stretch of the imagination, it seems, after all. Most people in the world, as it is, think that God is a physical entity. You cannot thank the Ahlul Bayt enough for your understanding of God. In that same book, Uqdat Durar, that I quoted first, in which the Prophet ﷺ was asked that if there will be no food and water, then what will people survive on? Those who are true believers, those who do not want to bow to Dajjal, how will they live? And the Prophet ﷺ said, they will survive on at-tahleel, wat-takbir, wat-tasbih, wat-tamheed. The 4 tasbihat al-arba'a that we recite in our 3rd and 4th rakat. Subhanallah, walhamdulillahi, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. This is where it gets interesting. And then the Prophet says, وَيَجْرِي ذَلِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ مَجْرِيَ الطَّعَامِ. And that will flow in their bodies the way food and sustenance flows in their bodies today. In another tradition, the Prophet ﷺ was asked, what will be the food of the believers, ta'amul mu'mineen, during the time of Dajjal? And his response was, ta'amul malaika. They will feed on the same food that the angels feed on to stay alive. He was asked, قَالُوا وَمَا طَعَامُ الْمَلَائِكَ Ya Rasulullah, what is the food of angels? When angels want to sustain themselves, what is it that they feed on? He said, طَعَامُهُمْ بِنُطْقِهِمْ بِالتَّصْبِيحِ وَالتَّقْدِيسِ. Angels are beings of light. They feed on the glorification and sanctification of God. They feed on being able to say, Subbuhun Quddus. This is what keeps them sustained and alive. And Allah will remove hunger and pangs from the believer through their frequent and constant glorification and tasbih. This itself suggests a form of evolution of the human being, an ability of some amongst these species to sustain themselves, not only on physical sustenance that grows on the earth, the vegetation, or feeding themselves on other creatures and animals, the meat that we feed on and consume, but on tasbih, like the angels do. Another way to put this is this. Some amongst humans will learn to connect to the original source of all sustenance and energy. They will connect to Ar-Razzaq, the sustainer, and then draw energy from him directly. Because remember, even now, it is he who feeds you and sustains you. Remember the discussion we had with Ibrahim alayhi salam, that when he had access to malakut, he said, وَهُوَ يُطْعِمُنِي وَيُسْقِينِي. And it is he who feeds me and quenches my thirst. Meaning, even though Ibrahim alayhi salam was consuming food, he was able to see that the food in the world of malakut is just following a process of cause and effect. The real energy and the real source of that energy in that food is coming from God himself. So it seems we are now able to transcend that cause and effect. And the vegetation and animals we eat and drink are only a means through that process and that effect. And that is why the food and the consumption and the physical pleasures of Jannah is so intense compared to that of this world. Because there, even though you have a physical body and at face value you are eating and drinking and indulging in pleasure, you are able to see the presence of God in that pleasure directly without the cause and effect. And that brings about a new level of intensity in that physical experience. Now you might still argue, how can this even be possible? How is it possible that humans need food and water, and now there will come a time where they will be able to survive simply on glorifying Allah and doing tasbih? And scientifically, this is simply impossible. Now, firstly, if we are going to reject this hadith on the basis of science, that it's impossible, then first we must begin by denying the Quran, because the Quran is full of miracles that are scientifically impossible. In fact, including the miracle that Maryam alayhi salam, the mother of Jesus, the mother of Isa ibn Maryam, receives food from an unknown source that appears miraculously before her. And her son Isa alayhi salam receives an entire table laden with food from the heavens that it descends, for which Suratul Ma'idah is named Ma'idah. So we will have to first dispute the authenticity of the Quran if we dispute what we are finding in hadith. And as we said before, science is the result of our observations of how the world operates, what we call the laws of nature and cause and effect. And our understanding of what's possible and impossible is based on what we think to be absolute and inviolable laws, whereas God wishes to show us that nothing is absolute except Him, and everything else is relative and under His command and control. We see the laws of science and nature as being absolute and inviolable. But the message of the Quran and the Hadith is that this world is a mask, a veneer, an illusion that hides you and separates you from the true world and the true reality that exists in parallel, in tandem with this world, and that everything you are doing in this world is producing a reality and the other. And once you break that barrier, once you reach and attain a level of spirituality that thins or removes that veil, then things operate very, very differently. Secondly, nothing in the signs of the hereafter, nothing in the signs of the coming of the Mahdi will make scientific sense to us. These are not ordinary times that the hadith is talking about. Consider, for example, the sign that says before the return of the Mahdi, the sun will rise from the west. How is that scientifically possible? Okay. Consider, for example, the sign that a moon eclipse can only happen in the middle of a lunar month when you have a full moon. It is scientifically impossible to have a moon eclipse at the start or at the end of a lunar month. And a sun eclipse is the opposite. It can only happen at the start or at the end of a lunar month. It will never happen in the middle of a month. But in the hadith of Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says there will come a day, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He says, before the coming of the Mahdi, there will come a month of Ramadan in which there will be a moon eclipse either in the start or the end of that Ramadan, and there will be a sun eclipse in the middle of the month. Now, some of the scholars have tried to explain this scientifically. For example, there is a debate and discussion amongst the scientists about polar shifts and the melting of ice at the caps, and the idea that if a tremendous amount of ice was lost on the polar caps and there was a massive ice melt, then the Earth could change on its axis. Now, if that was extreme and it flipped on its axis, then once north becomes south and south becomes north, then the sun will rise from the west. And that might affect how the eclipse happens. I'm not saying this is how it will happen. I'm saying these are attempts by people to try and rationalize and understand this. But the point I'm trying to make is that the alamat of dhuhur, and in the hadith, the people listening to it did bring it up with the Imam. For example, the people did say to Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, it's impossible for a moon eclipse to happen in the start. And the Imam said, I know it's impossible. But I'm telling you, this is not something ordinary. This will be something extraordinary, something miraculous. And that is why we will know that the time of the Mahdi is approaching. And thirdly, then look at some of the evidence that we have already produced in hadith that we have talked about. For example, you will remember I mentioned this idea of wisal, that the Prophet ﷺ used to fast continuously for several days without breaking his fast. And his companion said to him, we would like to do it. And he said, this is not for you. I have a Lord who feeds me in my sleep and quenches my thirst. This is mentioned in the books of hadith and in the books of our Sunni brothers and sisters. It is mentioned in their most authentic sources like Bukhari. So if this wisal is in theory possible for the Prophet, it is not impossible that it may start becoming a reality for the extreme believers who attain very high levels of spirituality and purity. Then there was another example when I was mentioning the potency and the uniqueness of Tasbih az-Zahra alayha salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You will remember I mentioned that I will tell you something about this tasbih in a later night, and that is now. If you read the history of how this tasbih was taught to Sayyidatun Nisa'il Alameen, it is very interesting. The daughter of the Prophet was having a lot of difficulty with her physical workload. She had 4 children to look after, Imam al-Hasan, Imam al-Hussein, Sayyidah Zainab, Sayyidah Kulthum, plus the work at home, grinding the meal and so on. And Amir al-Mu'mineen suggested to her, why do you not go and speak to the Prophet and see if he can help us with something? Now, she came to the Prophet asking for help with something that was physical labor. And the Prophet, instead of giving her house help or a maid, teaches her this tasbih and says, oh Fatima, if you read this tasbih, it will make your work easy. And she does not contest it and say, but I have work at home. I'm burdened with physical labor. I will do this tasbih to glorify Allah, but what will help me? She understands what the Prophet is saying, which means that if we fully understand the potency and the power behind this tasbih, besides the glorification and besides the spiritual blessings of this tasbih has the ability to provide physical energy and nourishment in the literal sense. The scholars of akhlaq and Islam have a saying. They say, Ma'u Zamzam lima shuriba lahu. The water of Zamzam does what it was meant to do and the intention with which it is drunk. Meaning, if you drink Zamzam because you are thirsty, then the only thing it will do is quench your thirst. But if you drink Zamzam with this conviction that there is shifa in this water and it will cure me, then that water will cure you. And the same is true for the alam of Abul Fadl al-Abbas. It is min sha'airillah. So what is your intention? Where is that taqwa al-qulub that comes towards that sign of God? And so this tasbih that we recite and this tahleel and tamjeed, subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha, at this point it is just a verbal articulation and we are saying it is creating a reality in the real world. But there will come a time when this will do a lot more. It will provide physical nourishment to the believers. So the summary of what we are saying is that the trial or the fitna of Dajjal is also a huge opportunity for enlightenment for those who understand that suffering has a purpose and a wisdom, and that there is a silver lining even to all the doom and gloom that we are expecting. Now, more importantly is the fact that we don't have to wait for Dajjal to come in order to start doing this tasbih with such vigor and passion and zeal. Even now, if we increase our habit of doing dhikr of Allah, and our lips go dry because of the constant remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with full consciousness, we will begin consuming the sustenance of angels. And you will find this through personal experience, that your dependency on food and sleep will decrease because of this constant dhikr and tasbih. You don't have to take my word for it. You can try it for yourself over a period of time, of course. It appears then that even we as humans are busy working to destroy ourselves because of idolizing our egoic selves. Allah is working towards saving us. There are some who only listen to the voice of their egoic selves, and it tells them, always put yourself first. You live only once. Let no one tell you how to live your life. Enjoy life while you can. And in the process of this me first, we destroy the world and ourselves. And then there are those who deeply realize that their reality is not an independent reality. It is only borrowed from God, who is the real reality. When I come to fully understand this is my reality, then I fully come to understand who God is. And hence the saying, Man arafa nafsa, faqad arafa rabbah. He who knows himself, he knows God. And so the more we understand who we really are, the more it becomes clear who God is. And hence, for those who are such, the plan of God is to elevate them to a new form of being, an evolution, if you like, that promotes them even above the realms of angels. Look, for example, in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, chapter 60, Allah first says, نَحْنُ قَدَّرْنَا بَيْنَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمَسْبُوقِينَ. It is we who have decreed death for you, and we shall not be outmaneuvered or overtaken in this. And then in the next verse he says, عَلَىٰ أَن نُبَدِّلَ أَمْثَالَكُمْ. We will not be overtaken and outmaneuvered in what? From replacing you with others who will be like you. But then more important is the second part of the verse. وَنُنْشِئَكُمْ فِي مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And recreating you into a new form and a new realm that you as yet do not understand. So what Allah is saying, you were minerals in the ground, and then you grew into vegetation, and then the animals ate that vegetation, and then your parents ate that animal, and we created you in those loins, and from a drop of life germ we created you into the being you are. And we will keep changing you. Your journey has not ended. There is still another evolution that is waiting for you. But it is more spiritual than physical. Outwardly, you have finished your development as a human being. In Jannah, you will still look the same. You will still have 2 eyes and 2 ears. You will still have 2 hands and 2 legs. But spiritually, your evolution has not ended. It is this ability in the perfect human being, in the insan kamil, to continuously grow, to hold a physical existence in the hereafter, but also have unlimited spiritual capacity to continuously grow for all eternity, that puts humans above angels. And that is perhaps why in this world and in the hereafter, we do not serve the angels, even though they are sacred, holy, sanctified beings of light, but they serve us. If you look at Quran and you look at Hadith, they pray for us, they guard us, they inspire us, they protect us, they record all our actions. And even in Jannah, they keep us company, they bring us joy, and they treat us like their lords and their masters in paradise. But we have to make ourselves worthy of that and take our right place in the universe as God's ultimate creation and the mirror to his attributes. Now let's talk about when the Savior of humanity is here and surrounded by the most elite of his followers that we commonly refer to as the 313. This number, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ya Ali. This number has great symbolism. The army of Talut that went to fight Jalut, and in that was Dawood who killed Jalut. In the Bible, Talut is called Saul. Saul's army with David killed Goliath. That army of Talut was made of 313 elite soldiers. In the Battle of Badr, the first battle in Islam, the number of Muslims who fought were 313. And so shall it be with the final battle. The commanders of the Mahdi as well are 313. And under each one of them is a larger group of followers. These 313 are his guardians. They protect him. They will protect the Mahdi at all times and at all costs. They will constantly be surrounding him. Some reports even suggest that 50 of these 313 will be women. Their qualities, though, are quite baffling when you read hadith. They are the masters of Quran. Their understanding of God, their ma'rifah of Tawheed is of a very high level. They're very humble. They dress in simple clothing and they lead simple lives. They are ascetics. With each other, they are closer to each other than even blood siblings. They even seem to dress alike. During the night, they worship Allah for long periods. And during the day, they fast very often and are busy working towards their own reform and to promote Allah's cause. They are described in hadith as ruhbanum bil layl, asadum bin nahar, monks by night and lions by day. Tasbih and dhikr is constantly on their lips. Their faces radiate with the light of spirituality. Many of them are hidden from public eyes, but they are ashabul karamat, meaning they are able to perform supernatural acts of wonder. But here is what I find most baffling about this 313. On one hand, we are told that when the Mahdi arrives, they reach him in an instant. He summons them and they reach him in Mecca in a blink, through a process that is called Tayyul Ard, which is translocation, where they step 1 foot here, the next step they are in Mecca. If they pass by a grave, we are told they know what's happening to the person buried in the grave. They can see what is inside. When they see anyone, they can see their true form and their malakuti self. The Mahdi alayhi salam sends them to different parts of the world to represent him, and he tells them, whenever you need to communicate with me and get instructions from me, just look at your palm and we will communicate. He is not talking about the use of technology and devices. He gives each one of them a divine sword on which their name and their father's name is inscribed on that. He assigns them to represent him in different regions of the earth. When they march towards an enemy, their awe precedes a month before even they get there. They have such tremendous power that if they call out with takbir, Allahu Akbar, they can level a mountain. Each one of them has the strength and ability of 40 men. Now this is one side. On the other hand, what baffles me is that most of them are young, in their 20s and 30s and 40s. And the hadith says the number of old people amongst these 313 is like salt that you sprinkle on food. Now, today if I tell you, can you please make a list of those people that you know in your life that you think would make and qualify to be 313? You probably, based on the qualities I have described, will not be able to put even one name down. And if you were to try, most likely you will pick people who are old, because your mind will go to Najaf and Qum, isn't it? You'll start thinking of the names of the Maraji and start putting their names down. So now we have a problem. How do we imagine, in the world we live in today, we talk of godlessness, materialism, constant, depraved societies, morality being lost, injustices. Each generation we see is worse than the other. How do we imagine these 313 show up when the Imam returns? And most of them are not old. The old probably think we have a better chance than the next generation, isn't it? Now, if there is any hope that the Imam will return soon, where are we going to find this 313? Here I wish to present a theory. You don't have to accept this. This is just a personal thought. I believe these 313 are still in the process of becoming enlightened. And they become enlightened and come to possess these supernatural abilities during the final trials. Because as we have been saying these last 2 nights, it is suffering that brings enlightenment. What I'm suggesting is that these 313 are currently not butterflies as yet. They are still caterpillars in their chrysalis. Perhaps there are some light tears or cracks in their shells of their ego, but they haven't emerged as yet. These young people are occupied day and night with self-reform and spiritual growth and finding God. They constantly seek to increase their knowledge and understanding of God and to worship Him and to drown themselves in the remembrance of God. They find great peace in the worship of God and in prostration and sujood. They derive spiritual pleasure in fasting and the feeling of emptiness in their bellies. They call out to Allah in private and in the dark of the night and shed tears. When they look at themselves, they are ashamed at how little they have accomplished, and they feel they are not worthy of any honor. They see themselves as the worst of people while everyone around them is better than themselves. They run away from limelight. They are not seeking fame. They are not distracted by the world and the trivial pursuits that others their age are hankering after. They are sincere and they are humble. And as the calamity of Dajjal befalls, their tasbih will ramp up. Hunger doesn't bother them. They can survive on a cup of water, a piece of bread, and the food of the angels. As soon as Jibreel calls out, Ja al-Haq wa Zahaq al-Batil, truth has arrived and falsehood has vanished. Innal batila kana zahuqa. Falsehood is a thing that was bound to perish. He is announcing the Mahdi has returned. The chrysalis of these 313 explodes. The butterflies emerge, and these 313 reach their Imam in an instant. So the 313 become 313 at the very end. And as I said, this is just a personal theory. You can choose to reject it if you have a better way to make sense of this. But my message tonight is that if you are a young person, if you are a young man or woman, seek God like someone drowning whose only preoccupation is to seek air. Carry out your duties and responsibilities in life, but nothing should occupy you so much that you forget the real purpose of life, which is to find God. If you are young, in your 20s and your 30s, even your 40s, much as the time we live in is scary, this is also the best time to be alive. Because never before have our ulama been more certain that we are on the verge of the return of the Mahdi. You see, if I get up in the middle of the night and I call out to Allah, and even if I recite Dua Kumail in my sujood and cry out to Him, أَتُسَلِّطُ النَّارَ عَلَى وُجُوهٍ خَرَّتْ لِعَظَمَتِكَ سَاجِدًا. My Lord, will you expose my face to fire while I prostrate before your majesty and your, holiness and so on? That's all fine and dandy, but that's not a big deal. Why? Because I have lived my life. What was I doing when I was a youth? But you the youth that I'm addressing now, man and woman, you still have a lot that you want to do in life, isn't it? You want to get married, you have a career ahead, you are tempted with sin on a daily basis, you have distractions, you have passions, you have dreams, you have a bucket list, you want to buy a house, you want to travel the world, you have family, you want to start a family, you want to start your own business. If you get up in the middle of the night and prostrate before God and shed tears in the dark, that is something different altogether. It's incomparable. We have in Hadith al-Qudsi, when a young person gets up in the middle of the night and prostrates before God and sheds tears, Allah makes him apparent to all the angels. And He speaks of this person to His angels and says, look at my servant, look at my maid. Despite all that is on their shoulders during the day, they still get up in the middle of the night to call out to me. وَعِزَّتِي وَجَلَالِي, by my might and my glory, I will forgive his and or her sins, even if they are as many as the grains of sand on the earth. It means Allah has chosen you. It is not a coincidence that you forsake your bed and get up in the middle of the night. And it is not your doing. There is some potential in you that your Lord has seen, and He has picked you up and said, I will manifest myself through this creature of mine. You see, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. كونوا أبناء الآخرة ولا تكونوا أبناء الدنيا. O my Shia, be children of the hereafter. Do not be the children of this world. The children of the hereafter do not take their values by imitating the sinners and the wrongdoers of this world. They are cut from a different cloth. They set their eyes on knowledge, on ma'rifah. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam says most of the followers of the Qa'im, most of these 313 are awlad al-ajam. They are children of non-Arabs. In the past, Ajam was understood as being Persian, as being Iranian in the early days of Islam. But Ajam came to mean a term anyone who is not Arab. Imam al-Baqir says most of these 313 are not Arabs. So what this means is, in order for the movement of the Mahdi to be a global movement, they will have to be people from the 313 that represent every part of the world. Unless there is a region of the earth that is completely annihilated and destroyed through a war, like a nuclear fallout, there will be representatives everywhere. It is imperative that if the mission of the Mahdi is to be global, some of these 313 must come from South America. Some of them must come from North America. Some will have to come from Africa, some will have to come from Europe, some will have to come from Asia, some will have to come from Far East, some will have to come from Australia. There will have to be a representative from all regions of the earth. So you live in interesting times. The question is whether you have that hamasa, that zeal, that I will not give up. I will plead to Allah, I do not care. If I cannot make it to the 313, then make that list 314. Because I will be there. That sense of determination must be there. We have a hadith that says from the Prophet, reach the Mahdi when he comes, even if you have to crawl on ice. وَلَوْ حَبْوًا عَلَى الثَّلْجِ. There is no ice in Arabia, isn't it? That means there has to be some region of the earth that is covered in ice and snow. Be excited, O Shia of Ali Muhammad in Canada, that there are some who will reach the Mahdi crawling on ice and snow. Jazakumullah. I have reached the point in my discussion where I'm happy to stop and inshallah then do a conclusion to this whole series on Monday night. So I want to stop here for tonight. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على. Now, I know we are running late, but before I come to Masaib, there is 2 or 3 small things I want to say to you, because I wouldn't get this opportunity again. It's not related to my topic, and it's not related to Masaib. One of the things I want to say to you is that the youth of this community have put together a display for Abul Fadl al-Abbas on the soccer field behind. I assure you, they have not asked me to say this. I went a few days before the night of Abul Fadl al-Abbas with my 9-year-old. I was so blown away. And to be honest, when I saw some of the displays, I said they could not have done this themselves. This was done by professionals. It was not what I was expecting. I thought I would see a TV screen playing something on it. This is a full exhibition with sound. And I was so impressed. And I looked at the children there. They were just fixated on it. I could see what they were seeing was, being etched into their minds. And I said to them, I will mention this on the night of Abul Fadl al-Abbas, but then I ran out of time. So I do urge you, if you haven't seen it, please do not miss this. And if you have children, certainly take them. Just looking at this will leave a lasting impression on them. The other thing I want to mention very quickly, and again, this is not from the ISIJ as well. The last 3 nights, I keep hearing people come to the mic and saying, please donate generously, please donate generously. First the treasurer came, and then the president of the community came, and today the mukhi came, and right. It makes me cringe when I sit amongst the Shia of Ali Muhammad and someone is asking for a donation. We should be fighting with each other, that I am going to give and I'm not going to let you donate. All right? Because on the day of judgment, the line of those who have done anything for Hussein is a different line from anyone else. I'm not telling you donate to this community because I am speaking. Donate to any Husseiniya. But do not lose this blessing. Give $1 to any Husseiniya you want. And again, if you go see this display and you see the potential of what our youth can do, it will make you even more generous because you will see what they're able to do. The children are processing it. My 9-year-old was looking at it and he was like, next time we could bring in some robotics and we could make their arms move and we could do this and. So there's tremendous potential for this community and youth. The last thing I want to mention very quickly, I'm getting a lot of requests from people, can you please address this from the mimbar, and can you please address this, and can you tell people this, and this is important in the community. Now, if I start addressing all these, I'll need a whole separate majlis for it. So I can't do all that, but there is one thing that I do want to mention, and I do it with sincerity, not to hurt anybody. I have been made aware of this and asked to mention this just this evening, just before I came to the mosque, that sadly and unfortunately, there is a rise in the number of cases of domestic abuse in the community. This is a problem across Canada, across all communities, but it is not something that is not found in Muslims. And what makes me even sadder is that it's present even in this community. Now, I know this is not the right platform or the time. We're not going to be able to solve this here. But what I do want to say is that it does not make sense to be finding God if we are beating our wives. And honestly, there is no point in you coming to listen to me. You're not going to get anything out of it. All right? As Shias of Ali Muhammad, it cannot be. Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam says, I am amazed at a person who beats his wife in the morning and then goes for his needs to her later. Is there no shame in us? It's impossible. I'm speaking to the men here. I'm not speaking to the women. Okay? The key to this is communication, not to get physical. I do understand sometimes it feels like men are from Mars and women are from Venus. And I do hear men saying, there is Women's Day, there is empowering women, there is women's rights. Nobody talks about men's rights. And there are men who are emotionally abused by their wives as well, and nobody addresses that. I get that. And there is a lot to be done yet. And we have wonderful support systems in the community. And inshallah, our ulama will address this issue from Salatul Jummah and other occasions. But I certainly urge you that the Quran is very clear on what to do when you cannot resolve a problem. And it says, فَأَمْسِكُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ أَوْ سَرِّحُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Either keep them as your wives with kindness or let them go with kindness. But this business of holding them hostage and sending them off without any money and using finances to control them and beating them just because we are physically stronger, this is cruelty. And we will not escape it. If we do not resolve this in this world, it will catch up in the grave and it will catch up with us on the Day of Judgment. It's impossible to find God if we are oppressing His creation. So let us, and it's not like there is no hope because we have done this for whatever reason, maybe childhood issues, anger management problems. It doesn't mean we can't resolve it. All it needs, as we said the other day, the children of Adam are naturally humble. It requires us to be humble, to sit with our spouses, take their hand in our hand and say, look, we've had differences, but let's talk about it. What is it that bothers you? What is it that bothers me? So communication is key. There are avenues to solve it, but the one thing that is absolutely unacceptable is lifting your hand on a woman. We tell our women, how can you be crying that Zainab alayhi salam lost her hijab and you don't wear hijab? We put up banners to say, Yazid took Zainab's hijab, who took yours? But then now look at it from men's perspective. We talk about Abul Fadl al-Abbas protecting the women, but we're not protecting our women. How does that logic make sense? How can I cry that Hussein until his last moments is concerned about the women, and then I go home and beat my wife? It does not make any sense. So I leave you with this thought, and inshallah, we will find, if we really want to find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will find that humility within us and that kindness within us, not to oppress others, not even an animal, not even a child, inshallah. If we can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. صلى الله وسلم عليك يا أبا عبد الله روحي وأرواح العالمين لك الفداء يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. Laylat Ashura, Laylat Musiba. From tonight, there is Qayamat in the house of Zahra. Let us teach our children that from tonight until tomorrow night, we have no other business except Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Everything that we talked about from the 1st of Muharram is happening tonight and tomorrow. We are told that Ibn Ziyad, La'natullah alayhi, kept sending troops to Karbala. He sent Khuli with a contingent. He sent Hurmala with a contingent. He sent Hasin bin Namir. And Umar ibn Sa'ad was still trying to talk to Imam al-Hussein. But on the 9th of Muharram, he sent the most wretched man that walked the earth. He sent Shimr al-Jawshan with 4,000 men. And he gave him a letter for Umar ibn Sa'ad. The letter said, "Oh Umar, I did not send you to sit and talk and negotiate with Hussein. I sent you to extract allegiance from him. And if you cannot do it, then make Shimr al-Jawshan the commander of the army. He will take over from you. He is second in command now." Umar, of course, in his greed for the world, said, "I will kill Hussein, but I will not let you take command." And Shimr al-Jawshan wanted to start the battle as soon as he arrived in Karbala on the 9th of Muharram. And so a group of them came towards Hussein alayhi salam to say, "This is your final chance. Pledge allegiance or we start fighting you right now." Imam al-Hussein had this deep reverence for his brother Abul Fadl al-Abbas. He never called him just like that, my brother Abbas. He always started by saying, "Binafsi ya akhi, may I be ransomed for you, my brother Abbas. Go see what they want." Abbas comes to them and says, "What is it you want?" They said, "We demand allegiance from Hussein right now or we're going to fight." Abbas takes his sword out and draws a line in the sand. "I will go and ask my master Hussein, do not cross this line unless you want to see your head on the ground." And while he went back, the line of Abbas kept guarding. If only the wind had not blown that line of Abbas away. Hussein alayhi salam says to him, "My brother Abbas, tell them we want one more night to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will not pledge allegiance, but let the battle be tomorrow." So they come back and ask. And Umar ibn Sa'ad said, "Even if the Romans had asked me for one more night, I would have given them. Let them worship God for one more night." So now the preparation has been made that tomorrow there is a battle. Imam al-Hussein asks his ashab to dig a trench behind the tents and light a fire so they cannot attack from behind. And now preparations begin for the battle. We're told at some point after they had prayed their salat, Imam al-Hussein gathered all his ashab and ansar. He set them before him, and they sat before him with great reverence and love and respect. Then he addressed them. He gave a lengthy sermon in which he glorified Allah. And then he looked at them and said, "Inni la a'lamu ashaban awfa wa khayram min ashabi." I do not know of anyone having companions as loyal and as good as my companions. My Jad Rasulullah, my father Amir al-Mu'mineen, my brother Hassan al-Mujtaba did not have ashab and ansar, helpers and companions like I have. Fajazakumullahu khayral jaza. Then he said to them, "Look, you all know tomorrow there is a battle. And these people are only after me. All they want is my blood. I urge you to leave tonight. There is no point in all of you being killed just to save me." but nobody moved. So then he began addressing them individually. He said, "O Banu Aqil, you have given enough with Muslim ibn Aqil. You should leave." Nobody moved. He addressed the companions. Nobody moved. Then Hussein said, "Perhaps you feel ashamed and embarrassed that I will see you stand up and walk away. I will extinguish the light." So he turned off all the lanterns and all the torches and all the flames. What a moment it was that the Hujjah of God with 72 companions sat in absolute darkness and quiet. He waited for a while. Then he lit the lamp again. And what did Hussein see? On one corner, Habib's head was down, he was weeping. On the other side, Burair was crying. Here, Muslim was crying. Zuhair stood up and said, "Yabna Rasulillah, if we are killed and brought back to life, and killed and brought back to life 1,000 times, we will not leave you, O Hussein." Another man stood up and said, "Yabna Rasulillah, may the beasts in the jungle devour us if we leave you." Abul Fadl al-Abbas stood up. He wept and he said, "Aba Abdullah, of what use is life after you? Why would anyone want to live if you are gone?" Hussein blesses his companion. Shaykh al-Saduq in his Ilal al-Shara'i quotes from the 6th Imam. And in another hadith from Abu Hamza Thimali, he quotes from the 4th Imam, where the 4th Imam is the Rawi, that the Imam blessed his companions. Then he said to them, "Look up now to the heavens." And when they looked at the heavens, it opened up and they saw paradise. And he showed each one of them individually. "O Habib, this is your maqam in Jannah. O Burair, this is where you will be in Jannah. O Muslim, this is for you in the Alamul Malakut." And the Imam says, Imam Sajjad and Imam As-Sadiq says, this encouraged them even greater. They began worshipping Allah with greater fervor, and they were now determined. Nothing will deter them from martyrdom. Al-Khawarizmi in his Maqtal, he says that there was this tahleel and taqdees and constant humming in the camp of Hussein. وَكَانَ دَوِيُّهُمْ كَدَوِيُّ النَّحْلِ. When you listened to the camp of Hussein, it sounded as if there were bees humming because of that constant supplication of Allah, and they were raki'an and sajidan, bowing and prostrating. But this was one side of the camp. On the other side of the camp, there were mothers holding their babies in their arms, crying, "Al-Atash, Al-Atash. Ah, thirst is killing us." Hussein began walking amongst the camp. He saw the mothers consoling their children, comforting their children. Some of them were explaining to their children, "Tomorrow there will be a jihad. You must not hold back. You must go forward and fight in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For 3 days the children of Zahra have been dying of thirst." Imam al-Hussein is preparing everyone for the battle. Imam al-Sajjad says at one point, John, the servant of Abu Dhar, was sharpening the sword of Hussein. And Imam al-Hussein began reciting poetry to tell his sister Zainab that tomorrow I will be killed. He began saying, "Ya dahru uffin laka min khalilin, kam laka bil ashraqi wal asili." O time, how faithless you have been, and how many days and nights and sunrises and sunsets you have shown us. But tomorrow our bodies will be scattered in these very plains. And Imam al-Sajjad said, I began choking on my tears. My aunt Zainab began crying. She held onto her brother Hussein and said, "They will tear you away tomorrow from me and kill you. I will not be able to live without you, O Hussein." Imam al-Hussein consoled his sister Zainab. He said to her, "My sister Zainab, be patient. There is no one on this world who will not die. Everyone in the heavens must die." But sometimes he would tell his sister Zainab, "My sister Zainab, last night I had a dream. Dogs were attacking me, and there was one particular dog that was attacking me viciously. I think that is the person who will kill me." Zainab is preparing herself as well for Hussein. But as Hussein walked further through the tents, there was one tent in which there was a lady rocking a cradle. That lady was Rabab. Rabab was thinking to herself, if only my child, you had been older, you could have gone to the Maidan tomorrow, you would have gone to the battlefield. If only you would have been older, you too would have shown your shuja'ah tomorrow. Who is Rabab? Rabab is that lady, a noble lady who is recorded in history as being a poet, as being very intelligent, but above all, fiercely loyal to Hussein. We are told that after the battle of Karbala, when the women were taken and paraded through Karbala and shown the bodies of their loved ones thrown on the sands unburied, and Zainab saw her husband and Imam Hussein's body under the hot sands of Karbala, she took a vow that after this day I will never sit under a shade. If my Mawla has been under the sun, and that will be for me too. She lived for only 1 year after Karbala, but she never went into a shade or sat under this shade. This Rabab is rocking her child and thinking, if only my child was old enough. But the day rose the next day. Akbar gave the adhan. Imam Hussein had left Hajj. He began doing his sa'i in Karbala, running back and forth, bringing the bodies of the shuhada. He kept giving one qurbani after the other, one sacrifice after the other. When everyone was gone, even Abul Fadl al-Abbas was gone. When Hussein had removed the blade spear from the chest of Akbar, when Hussein had lifted the severed arms of Abbas, he went into the tents of his Ashab and Ansar. He looked around, there was just silence, their possessions lying everywhere. There was no one around. Finding no one, he thought, now I must go and fight. But before that, perhaps there might be another Hur in the army of Yazid who wants to come. So he went and stood in front of the tents of the women. And then he looked out to the enemy and said, Hal min nasirin yansurna? Is there anyone who can come to our help? There was no reply. There was no reply except the hot winds of Karbala blowing on his face. He called out again, Hal min mughithin yughithuna? Is there anyone who can come and rescue us? There was no reply to Hussein, but there was a reply from the tents. The women began to cry. Hussein came back to them and said, why are you weeping? I am still alive. They said, Mawla, when you called out for istighatha, Aliyun al-Asghar threw himself from the cradle in response. Hussein, Gharib Hussein, he said, this child is perishing with thirst. Give me my son. Let me take him to the enemies. Perhaps there is someone who will show mercy to this child. Rabab is fearful. Should I send my child in the midst of the battlefield? These men are ruthless and bloodthirsty. But then she thought, perhaps they will give a sip of water to my child. Perhaps his thirst will be quenched. She wrapped him in some new clothes. She swaddled her child. She kissed her child and said, go. Hussein is going to quench your thirst. Hussein took his 6-month-old infant. He rode out before the enemies. The sun was blazing. Hussein covered the child with his abba. When he approached the enemies, they saw Hussein coming. They said, Hussein has brought the Quran. Perhaps he seeks peace and truce now. Indeed, what he brought was no less than the Quran. He came and stood before them. He said, Ya qawm, قَدْ قَتَلْتُمْ أَخِي وَأَصْحَابِي وَأَوْلَادِي. O people, you have killed my Abbas now. You have killed all my children and all my companions. He said, فَمَا بَقِيَ غَيْرَ هَذَا الطِّفْلِ. There is no one left now except this infant. Can you give him a few sips of water? If I have committed a sin in your eyes, فَمَا ذَنْبُ هَذَا الطِّفْلِ. What sin has this child committed that you will not give him water? There was no reply. There was no reply to Hussein. Hussein looked at them for a while. Then he said, perhaps you think that if you bring water, I will drink the water. I place this child on the hot sands of Karbala. You come yourselves and give him some water. But nobody stepped forward to feed the child. Nobody came to quench the child's thirst. Then he lifted the child again. He said, is there no Sahib Awlad amongst you? If you cannot be Muslims, does no one amongst you have a child? Is there no mercy amongst you? There was still no reply. Then Hussein said, my son Aliyun al-Asghar, you do itmamul hujjah. Why do you not show them how thirsty you are? He lifted the child towards the enemies. He said to his child, show them how thirsty you are. The child took its dry lip out. He took his dry tongue out. he began rubbing it on his dry lips. His jihad was no less than the jihad of Akbar. It moved and cut the enemy's heart like Dhul-Fiqar. They began turning their faces to the side and weeping. And unrest arose in the army of Umar ibn Saad. They began quarreling and saying, give the child some water. The Arbab of Azah say, Aliyun al-Asghar was like a fish out of water. Sometimes it opened its little mouth, sometimes it closed its little mouth. It kept gasping for air as if saying, I am dying of thirst, give me some water. When Umar ibn Saad saw there was chaos in his camps, he called Hurmala. He said, oh Hurmala, iqta kalam al-Hussein. This is enough. Stop the speech of Hussein. Hurmala came forward. He pulled out a three-pronged arrow. He looked towards the baby. He took aim at the baby. His hands began to quiver. Umar ibn Saad said, what is wrong with you, O Hurmala? You never miss your mark. Hurmala said, come stand where I am. There is a mother standing outside the tent. There is a lady. I can tell this is the mother of the baby. But Hurmala turned his focus entirely on the baby's throat. He aimed the arrow towards the throat of Asghar. Some of the Arbab of Azah say he aimed towards Hussein, but the baby lifted his head to save his father as the arrow flew through the air and came towards Aliyun al-Asghar. But now the words of Maqtal, it says, when the arrow came through to the baby, it cut him from one ear to the other. فَذُبِحَ الطِّفْلُ مِنَ الْأُذْنِ إلى الأذن ومن الوريد إلى الوريد فلما أحس الطفل بحرارة السهم. But when the baby felt the arrow's heat enter its body, أخرج يديه من القمات. It took his little arms from the swaddle cloth. وأتنك أباه الحسين. It hugged its father's neck. ورفرف يديه كالطير المذبوح. It began flapping its arms like a little bird that had been slaughtered. أيوة غريبة, أيوة مظلومة. Hussein began to weep. I do not know how Hussein removed the arrow from the baby's throat, but Imam al-Mahdi says, لَقَدْ عَجِبَتْ مِنْ صَبْرِكَ مَلَائِكَةِ السَّمَاءِ. Oh Hussein, the angels were astonished at your sabr. And this is why the Arbab of Azah say, Hussein wo gharib hai jise rula rula ke mara gaya. Hussein was killed bit by bit. He took the blood of Asghar. Some say he threw it to the heavens and not a drop came back. Others say Hussein wiped the blood of his child on his face. He cried out, Hakada alqi jaddi Rasulullah. This is how I will come before my grandfather Rasulullah on the day of judgment. Hussein was heartbroken. He covered the child with his abha. He began walking back towards the Khayyam. Perhaps he was thinking, how will I explain this to Rabab? But as he was walking back, suddenly Hussein froze. His feet would not take him forward. Why, oh Aba Abdullah? He saw Rabab is waiting. Hussein could not move. He began walking backwards. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Ridham bi qada'ihi wa tasliman li amri. Again Hussein tried going forward. Again he walked backwards 7 times. Gharib Hussein is finding a way to get back. He went around from behind the tents. He called his sister Zainab. Zainab, hold Rabab. Sakina came running out. Baba, have you quenched the thirst of my brother Asghar? Zainab took hold of Rabab. Hussein did not say anything to Rabab. He just simply uncovered his abba. Rabab said only one thing, and then she collapsed.
collapsed. She looked at the baby's throat. Then she said, Bunayya amithluka yunhar. My child, are little ones like you slaughtered like camels? Ajrukum Allah. When Rabab recovered, Hussein took Rabab and the baby behind the tents. He thought, perhaps if I bury this child, it will comfort the mother. Gharib Hussein began digging a small grave with Zulfiqar. He had no water for the grave. He buried his child with the tears of Rabab. Yes, Asra Ashur came. Hussein never returned. The tents were set on fire. Umar ibn Saad said, we killed a 6-month-old infant. Where is his head? He sent a group of men with spears. Some of them said, we saw Hussein bearing a child behind. Go find the child. They began walking around with spears, digging into the ground. Rabab is watching. Her heart stopped when a man dug the spear, and when it came out, there was an infant on the spear. She cried out, my child, why are they slaughtering you again? Wa Aliyah, wa Husayna, wa Ghariba, wa Madluma, Matam Hussein.